Okay, so yeah, welcome once again, folks, to the last in our current run of Sandbox sessions. The Sandbox sessions are volunteer-led events that are supported by Wikimedia UK. We aim to offer a space in which our community can share their learning, meet other Wikimedians, and to try new things. Today's session, before we get into that, sorry, my slides are going faster than I am. The goal of our session here is to create an encouraging space for collective learning. We operate these sessions under our friendly space policy at Wikimedia UK. If anything comes up that you'd like to bring to my attention, please do use the private message chat on Zoom. As I said, we are recording this session. If you want to switch off your camera or change your name, do whatever makes you feel most comfortable, please do. That's absolutely no problem at all. It should only be capturing just what I'm sharing on screen and my video, my voice. But I wouldn't want anyone to feel uncomfortable. So yeah, please just do whatever is correct for you. Please do introduce yourselves in the chat. Our session today, we're going to be playing a recording of an interview that we did with Harry at the end of last year. And then Harry is in the room also to answer any questions that we have after that. We can have a little bit of a discussion. But the thing we're going to be playing today is about Harry sharing with us about being an English Wikipedia admin. What I'm going to do now, hopefully, is go to this. Can I just get a thumbs up if you can see? You should be able to see a slide at the moment that says at the end of 2025. Brilliant. Thank you so much, Campbell. And if I have done this correctly, then you should also be able to hear my sound. So cool. I'm going to mute myself and then we're going to get going. And okie dokie, cool. Are you sitting comfortably?
Yeah.
Marvelous. Okay. So Harry, what made you decide to apply to be an admin?
I joined in 2009. I became an admin in 2010, and one of the main things that I was doing around then was I was involved with the In the News section around the main page, and everything to do with the main page is kind of locked down to admins only because of the visibility of it all. And there was a delay in getting items posted onto the In the News section after it had all been agreed. So my raison d'etre, I suppose, for standing for admin was that I wanted to help with that. But afterwards kind of gravitated more towards the anti-abuse side of things.
Oh, amazing. I didn't realize that could be a route in. That's really interesting. Thank you. And what do you like about being an admin?
I like that I don't have to pester someone else when something needs doing. And there's kind of I think there's a sense of satisfaction in, particularly in the anti-abuse work that I do, in keeping things clean. You keep articles free of vandalism and spam. I deal with a lot of spam. But yeah, being able to block the vandals, block the spammers, get rid of the junk, and hopefully get it to a point where a lot of people don't even realise that it was there because it's kind of dealt with in the background before anyone really notices it, which I suppose it has a sense of job satisfaction.
Ooh. And what's the process like for becoming an admin? I know that English Wiki has had some experiments recently with a new process, but I'm just wondering if you could talk a little bit about what that process is like, how that feels, what people should be prepared for.
So the old process, which is still going, RFA, is I describe it as a week-long public job interview with the peanut gallery. Literally anyone can turn up and ask you a question about anything, from philosophical questions like how do you feel about this policy to why did you make this random edit 10 years ago. and anything and everything in between. And then people vote to support and oppose based on that, which is all done in public, which can be uncomfortable, especially if it feels like airing dirty laundry, because at the end of the day, it's vetting for a position of trust. So people are going to look for mistakes that you've made and things that you've done wrong, and everything that you've ever done that has made someone angry is probably going to come out in your RFA. But it lasts a week, and at the end of the week, if you get over 70%, I think it is. If you're over 70% support, you become an admin. Below 50, I think it is, you don't, and anywhere in between is the discretionary zone, where the bureaucrats will have another discussion about the discussion to decide whether or not you can be an admin. The new process is a bit more lightweight. So we have admin elections where essentially you just write out a candidate statement, possibly answer some questions, and then people vote privately based on that. And there's not very much public discussion, which possibly has advantages of comfort in that you're not airing the dirty laundry in public, but you don't know why people are opposing you, why you've made people angry. So if you're not successful, you don't really know what you need to do to improve for next time. So there's pros and cons to both approaches.
Yeah, I think the RFA approach sounds quite intimidating, actually. So the election approach, I can totally see how that might be less intimidating or might feel kind of safer in some ways, but yeah, I do get your point about being able to have that public discussion. So I like that there's both, personally.
There have been efforts over the years to make RFA less intimidating and less unpleasant. So there are more rules now. It's not quite so much of a free for all. Certainly, when I stood back in 2010, it was a real free for all. Like people. Anything other than the most egregious personal attack, basically anything went. And it can be an unpleasant process. My first RFA was unsuccessful way back in, I think it was December 2009. But at least there was public feedback that I could use there. And when I stood again in 2010, I can say that I've improved since then. I've done new and different things, and hopefully fixed some of the mistakes that people voted against me for the first time. And at the end of the day, you can't please all the people all the time. So sometimes it might be a little bit unpleasant. Some people might oppose you just because they don't like your face, or you spoke to them funny a few years ago, or whatever. And yeah, you don't have that there is less of that with the elections. The elections also have the benefit of a pool of candidates, so you're not kind of completely on your own. But yeah, you don't then have that public feedback, so you don't know why people are mad at you. So swings and roundabouts.
Indeed. Oh, cool. So what do admins do exactly? What tools do they have access to?
I'm going to preface this with I'm an anti-abuse admin. I get a lot of death threats and general abuse because the main focus of my admin activity is blocking people, reverting edits, blacklisting spam websites, and doing other confrontational and not necessarily the most pleasant things. But that's not the whole of adminship. So the core tools that admins have access to are block, delete, and protect. So you can block a user from editing. You can delete a page or an article. and you can lock it so that only people with certain rights can edit it. You can also delete individual revisions. Admins can view deleted edits, the deleted history of a page, and obviously reverse all the action, all those actions. They can assign user rights, which is one of the nicer parts of the job, actually. When people are kind of becoming slightly more experienced in their wiki journey and want new tools to help them with that, then it's quite nice to be the admin who can grant them that. And the admins can do various technical things, so we can edit protected pages and interface pages, some interface pages. So some people are drawn to the more technical side, and they like kind of tweaking the system messages and playing with JavaScript and things like that, which I don't really know anything about, but it's one of the things that admins have the ability to do. Certainly on the English Wikipedia, admin is kind of byword for trusted person. So just about anything that is restricted but doesn't need to be hugely restricted to only a tiny handful of people, admins can do. Some of it has been kind of devolved. Some of the tools have been unbundled, but the core set is still kind of blocking, deleting, protecting, editing protected pages, and most of that is probably going to stay with admins, certainly for the foreseeable future. And obviously, it's a gateway into other positions. So if you like the technical side, there are interface administrators, but you have to be an admin to become an interface admin. You have to be an admin first, and they can deal with they can kind of tweak like things that have a site-wide effect, like the HTML and the JavaScript, and the stuff that you really don't want people messing with unless they really know what they're doing. Which it's still essential work, but requires technical know-how that I don't have. Realistically, if you ever want to be a check user or an oversighter on the English Wikipedia, at least you need to be an admin first. On some wikis they have non-admins. Certainly non-admin check users are a thing on quite a few Wikipedias. But the way we do it on the English Wikipedia is that really you need to be an admin first. And if you were ever mad enough to stand for ARBCOM, realistically, you need to be an admin first for that.
Yeah, I think the sense that admins can get a lot of abuse is a thing that is quite scary. So I suppose I have two kind of follow-up questions on that. One of which would be, well, what support do you have for that? And I suppose going along with that, of what do you think the qualities are that make a good admin?
The abuse is you will get a certain amount of abuse just by virtue of being an admin. But I probably get more than average because I do deliberately confrontational things. If you block enough vandals and sock puppets and unpleasant people and spammers, then you just expect it.
You're fighting the good fight, basically.
Yeah, to me it's water off a duck's back. But I would much prefer that the way I think of it is that they're wasting their time kind of abusing and threatening me, whereas if they were abusing and threatening somebody else, it might have more effect on them. So I'm quite happy for them to continue targeting me. But there are nice kind of unconfrontational ways of being an admin that make people happy and give you the warm fuzzy feeling inside without the death threats. In terms of support, there's not an awful lot that can be done. obviously we can block the accounts and IP addresses and what have you, and there are some limited technical measures that you can take, like abuse filters and things like that. But in general, you kind of have, most of it is empty threats. It's people ranting on the internet, and you kind of have to take it as it comes. For the really serious stuff, when we get to death threats, especially if there's any credible threat of harm, the Foundation have a trust and safety team, and they can be quite a useful go-between between yourself and, if it comes to it, the police, and in theory with, for example, internet service providers, if you wanted to make an abuse complaint to the ISP. So there is a certain amount of support out there, but only really for the serious stuff. And you asked about the qualities.
Yeah,
I would say,
what kind of qualities do you think make for a good admin?
I think you need to be a fairly calm person. You can't let it get under your skin, because it's the internet and people think there are no consequences, so they say all sorts of horrible things. But if you're a calm person who just wants to help people and wants to do something useful in the community, then you'd probably make a fairly good admin.
And do admins talk to each other? I kind of have this sense of, do admins talk to each other? Do you have channels where you can chat and discuss things amongst yourselves privately?
Not really. We use user talk pages and notice boards if necessary. To be honest, we're constantly on user talk pages, talking about a particular admin action or a particular vandal or something, or just adminship in general, because every admin action is logged in public, so anyone in theory can come along and question it and say, why did you block that person or delete that page? And normally they would ask you that kind of thing on your talk page. If there's disagreement, then there's the admin's notice board, and there's a board called admin action review, or specific processes have their own review processes. So for example, there's deletion review. If you think an admin has made an incorrect deletion and you can't agree with them, and there are similar boards for other processes, but in general, it's all there's a lot of peer review just by virtue of the public logging, and obviously anything that an admin has done can be reversed and can be seen by any other admin. But we don't really talk. There's not really any organised off-wiki channels for admins. Obviously, there are lots of unorganised ones, and lots of people talk privately amongst their friends. But most of it is, even though I would still say most of it is probably done on talk pages.
Much like with everything on Wiki, pretty much everything is done out in the open.
Yeah.
How much time per week do you think it takes? So when we recruit for any volunteer, say at Wikimedia UK, one of the things that we would try and give people an idea of is how much time is this going to take? What kind of investment is required? So I'm wondering, in the same vein, how much time per week do you reckon being an admin takes?
The only real answer is, how long is a piece of string? It takes as much or as little time as you give it. You could sink 100 hours a week into it, take a day off, come back, and there's another 100 hours worth of work that needs to be done. Equally, if you did nothing for a week, the wiki is not going to collapse and burn down because you had a day off. So if you're heavily involved in a specific process and you're possibly one of the only admin or one of two or three carrying that process, it could be quite time consuming. You could easily be spending sort of 20 hours a week or more on that. For example, if you happen to be the admin on the spot on Did You Know or in the news or something like that, that can be quite time consuming if you haven't got any other admins. Whereas if you've got five admins competing for work almost, then it can be much less time consuming. Just as a not quite an admin example, but we have a lot of oversighters on the English Wikipedia at the moment. Probably we really have more than there is work to go around, which is very good in the sense that oversight requests are actioned very quickly. I think the average wait time for an email to the oversight team is less than 5 minutes for a response.
That's incredible.
But yeah, equally it means that there are some oversighters who haven't actually oversighted anything recently because someone keeps beating them to it. So it's very much, as with any role on Wikipedia, it's kind of how much time are you willing to put into it. And like I say, if you end up carrying one process in particular, that can end up consuming a lot of time. But there are 1,000 admins, so nothing is going to break just because you took a day off as a general rule. We have some admins who are very online and are adminning from kind of early in the morning to late at night,
Oh, wow.
almost 7 days a week. We have others who make a handful of admin actions a year, if that.
I think that's good to know that there's a range of different levels at which you can have a time investment. So
yeah,
because people go through waves of how involved that they can be, and
exactly,
sometimes you might be able to be more than other times.
And you need that kind of the diversity of availability, I suppose.
Yeah.
You need a certain number of people who are very online and will see anything that happens within seconds and are kind of on the spot to deal with it. But there is a long tail effect. So you have a small percentage of admins who do a large percentage of the work, but equally all the work that all the other admins do who perhaps only make a handful of actions a year even, it's still one less thing that somebody else has to do. And obviously, as people's lives change and jobs become more or less demanding and family life changes, people have more or less time to give. So having a lot of admins is good because it means that you have that kind of slack in the system.
Yeah, and that's really important for combating burnout.
Yes, definitely.
It being something that people still want to do rather than something that they feel obliged to do.
I find that it's a diverse enough role that I haven't yet got burnt out of adminning in general, even after 15 years. But I haven't done the same sort of adminning constantly for 15 years. I've kind of done various other things. At the moment, my focus is spam, but at other times I've focused on different things depending on kind of how I'm feeling and how much time I have available. At the moment, I work full time. I have a family. I don't have an awful lot of time as it is. Other people have more time. I tend to find that the vandalism gets dealt with quickly without me. So I kind of focus on investigating spam because that doesn't necessarily get addressed as quickly and isn't as easy to do and possibly takes more time. But yeah, there's a lot of different kinds of admin and kinds of admin role.
Yeah, it sounds a lot more varied than I think most people would expect.
Probably is more than most people would expect, yeah.
Love it. So what's the most challenging admin task? You've talked a little bit about spam being quite difficult, and obviously some things where there might be abuse involved, but yeah, I'm wondering what the most challenging admin task is.
I find it challenging with new but possibly misguided editors who mean well but aren't necessarily getting it, and sometimes that can take quite a lot of time. That's not time that you're writing articles or blocking vandals or doing other typically Wikipedian or admin things, but you're trying to explain quite convoluted sometimes internal processes to someone, sometimes to someone who doesn't want to get it, and that's difficult. But sometimes to someone who really does want to get it but is struggling, or has a particular niche interest that they really think Wikipedia should be covering. And yeah, it can be quite time consuming in the end, trying to explain all this to them. And I think one of the other most difficult things is experienced editors who are misbehaving. It can be dealing with a pattern, a long-term but not obvious pattern of misconduct is quite difficult. And a lot of that ends up with the arbitration committee, because a lot of admins don't feel that they have the social capital sometimes to deal with it, especially because any admin action can be reverted by any other admin. But the original admin is not allowed to reinstate their action after it's been reverted. So sometimes it can be difficult to address difficult behaviour by long-term editors.
Mm-hmm. And what do you think is the most fun thing, or could you share something silly about being an admin?
Something silly. So Wikimania got blocked last year. It wasn't me. There was an above average chance that it was me, but that particular block wasn't me. But yeah, the Wi-Fi that we were using for the venue for Wikimania ended up blocked.
Oh no.
And there were lots of messages going around with screenshots of the block message, and lots of people saying, I'm blocked, I can't edit anything. One of the curious things about being an admin is that you wouldn't even know about that, because admins are IP block exempt. So even if your IP address is hard blocked, you could edit through it without even knowing about it. So most of the admins in the room didn't know about this until other people are telling them.
I think it's good to know that. So, as a trainer, and obviously we train volunteer trainers at Wikimedia UK as well. And IP blocks are one of the things that we will spend some time. So it's good to know that it's not just us that come across those difficulties.
Yeah. Especially if you've got a large number of people connecting through a small number of IP addresses, it's going to be a problem.
Always.
But I actually ended up having to check user because I think it was an auto block. So I ended up having to check user the account that the block was intended for, and then undo the auto block so that people could edit from Wikimania.
And if there's any place where you would hope that we have the density of people with the necessary skills and abilities.
the largest gathering of people who were inclined to edit, and they can't edit because their IP address is blocked.
Yeah. What do you think is the most rewarding thing about being an admin?
It's nice when you can help someone. Especially if someone comes to you with something that to them is a big problem, and it's quite a small thing to fix. For example, my IP address is blocked. Okay, that takes me. I can find the block and release it in a few seconds. But I know where to look, and I have the tools to be able to do that. But that's obviously a big obstacle to a lot of people. And there are lots of other things that seem small in the scheme of things, but in the moment they're big things, and you just being able to ask someone for help, and it's nice to be able to not just to help, but to be able to kind of to be able to fix the problem.
Oh, that's great. I have one more question.
Yeah.
So in an ideal world, if technology and coding ability and all the rest of it were no objects, what tools do you think would make admins' lives easier?
I'd love to be able to block a person, like not an IP address or an account, but a person, so that I can say specifically that this block is intended for you, but anyone else who happens to be editing in the same room or the same library or using the same internet service provider is not affected.
Yeah.
Because one of the biggest challenges that we have is IP addressing is becoming less and less useful as a way of identifying an end user, but it's also becoming the blocks on individual IP addresses especially on big ranges have a knock-on effect on lots of innocent people.
That kind of unintended consequences.
Exactly.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Harry. Is there anything else that you'd like to add, or anything that you think we haven't covered?
I don't think so. It's not as scary as I make it sound. Like I say, I deliberately do confrontational things, but there are non-confrontational admin roles if you don't like the confrontation. And obviously, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great. Thank you so much, Harry. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much to everybody. I would hope that everybody would join me in saying a big virtual thank you to Harry for answering all of those questions there from me. And also not only for doing the interview, but also for all of the on-wiki work. It's greatly appreciated. I didn't say this at the beginning, so I will say this just now, but Harry's is an en.wiki admin who obviously does a lot of anti-vandalism work, as we've heard, is both an admin and an oversighter, and has been an admin for over 15 years, and when he's not doing that, he's editing about military history, architecture, and anything else that piques his interest. We've had some lovely comments in the chat and some questions that have already been answered. So just for the benefit of the recording, there were some questions around what it was that oversight meant in this particular context. And Femke has let us know that oversight is like super deleting. Normal deletion lets other admins see it, and with oversight, even admins can't see what's been deleted. With some further information that's sometimes around deleting personal identifiable information when things have been maybe accidentally overshared on Wikipedia. And also libel and personal information so that not even admins can see it. We have also had a question there. What is the new tool that CUs now have that the foundation have developed? Is that helpful? So I'll turn that one over to Harry, because I'm not sure that I know what that is. If Harry's able to answer that question just now, that would be lovely.
Pardon me for not putting my camera on.
Quite all right, don't worry about it.
I'm not entirely sure which tool you mean. There have been quite a few refinements to check user in the last couple of years. It is something that the Foundation are working on to try and make the tools more useful. But I think the one that's had the most publicity is probably suggested investigations, which is where check users now have access to a special page that lists. It gives you a list of accounts that have certain technical similarities that the system knows about. That I'm not sure I'm allowed to tell you what the similarities are, but it knows.
Yeah.
The system knows something about these accounts that suggests that they might be connected, and then check users can use that as a basis to investigate further and find out whether they are connected and whether there's anything nefarious going on.
Amazing, thank you. I would also point out, Femke has made a comment in the chat that if anybody's interested in becoming an admin and scared of that abuse or uncertain about that kind of abuse, just confirming it really does matter. It really matters on what you take on as an admin.
It really does. If you're
yeah.
going to do anti-abuse work like I do, you are going to get abuse, but that is not all there is to adminship. That's one of the roles that is available.
Yeah.
I'm happy doing the confrontational stuff, but there are plenty of admins who just do technical stuff or just do uncontroversial deletions or lots of other things that don't make people as angry.
Fair enough. Yeah, thank you. Much love to all admins as being shown in the chat. And as Martin is saying, just as most Wikipedia readers don't realise that all the different decisions and debates that go into the articles, ordinary contributors are often unaware of what goes on to keep the site running and free of vandals and spam. So grateful both for the insight into the system and for the work by these admins. And Lucy is asking, can you be an admin and it be chill? I can be a bit hot-headed. Oh, I don't know if that's true, Lucy, but could see me as not actually being that helpful.
You can be chill. There isn't a deadline. Is one of the important things to remember. And the other important thing to remember is there are about 800 admins on the English Wikipedia. If it really is urgent and something needs doing right now, someone else can get to it. And if you feel things heating up, just step away, go and do something else. Go for a walk, turn the computer off. Do something that isn't arguing with strangers on the internet. And other than that, take your time, calmly and rationally explain your position. People won't always agree with you, but if you can explain yourself in a way that makes sense to other people, then you've done your best. That's the important thing.
There's a lot to be said for that XKCD cartoon about what are you doing? Oh, someone was wrong on the internet, and you spend all the time arguing with them. I think there is a lot to be said for that in terms of balancing your energy as a volunteer, and knowing that it's okay to step away. Martin has a question in the chat. Once you're an admin, under what circumstances might you lose those privileges?
By default, you're an admin for life, as long as you continue to use the tools. So, but if your account is inactive, then your admin tools will be removed procedurally, which is mostly about site security. We don't want accounts that nobody knows the password to, with admin tools just kind of lying around. Waiting for something to happen, or for misconduct, the arbitration committee can remove administrators for cause, and the community has recently invented a recall process, which is still being refined. It's quite high drama at the moment, but there is a community-based process now for removal of admins who have lost the community's confidence.
I feel like that's a good move, and I can see it would be difficult, but I think with lots of like governance type things for charities, there'll be term limits. So I think having that community process is probably really important. Lucy is asking, do you still have time to edit articles, etc., in a non-admin way?
I try to. I try to spend a block of time catching up on admin things, and then spend other time just doing things that I enjoy doing. Um, I think it's important to do both and to kind of split your time like that. But generally, you can't do both things at the same time. So obviously, you can't be an admin where you're editing. You can't admin your own disputes and things like that.
Yeah. I kind of was wondering, we were talking about there being on some wikis, then some of the admin tasks have been what was the word, kind of hived off, so that there have been split so that you can be able to help out with some extended rights, but not necessarily all of them. Obviously on English Wiki that's a little bit different. I'm wondering, one of the global trends that the foundation have been talking about is a declining number of folks right across the Wikiverse with extended rights. If somebody was thinking about, oh, maybe I'd like to go for adminship in the future, are there any form of extended rights that you would say to folks, oh, you should have a go at this kind of thing, see how you feel about having some extended rights before going into adminship? Or are there, I don't know, particular parts of Wiki or types of work that they might want to get some experience of before going into adminship?
Interesting question. If it's something that you're interested in, then getting more involved in the back areas is always a good idea. Things like articles for deletion is always chronically backlogged.
True. Yeah.
This is an area that is desperate for people who understand the notability criteria and can apply them and determine whether this article is junk or whether there is actually something that can be saved. And that's one of the most useful things that you can do. Or just look at the areas where admins get involved and see if there is anything useful that they can do. Consider what you would have done and what admins actually did in the end. We do have some, for want of a better word, lesser permissions. So you can apply for rollback. You can apply for new page reviewer, which allows you to patrol new articles that have recently been created and weed out problematic ones. Rollback allows you to revert edits more quickly, and it gives you access to certain programs that can patrol recent changes very quickly in the hunt for vandalism. If you're interested in the technical side, there's template editor. Because a lot of templates that are used in lots of places, obviously, we're very careful about how they're edited because of the effect that can have. There's pending changes reviewer, so some articles are protected so that our edits need a review before they're published, and we have pending changes reviewers who can go and look at those and determine whether these are useful edits or not. In general, if it's something that you're interested in, reach out to me or an admin of your choice, and just have an informal chat.
That's lovely. Thank you so much, Harry. Yeah, I think if anybody else has any other questions, either unmute or type them in the chats. But yeah, I'd say it's work that is really valued and is very much needed within the community. So I will also extend my thanks to all of those who are fighting the good fight and doing that work online and for Wiki. There was some reflections about community health and health of a wiki in general at a session that I was with the Volunteer Supporters Network a little while ago. And we were talking about how you need many different kinds of editors to make a successful and healthy wiki. So you need the folks that are right on content, but you also need technical editors, and you need wiki gnomes and folks who will be interested in all of those different parts. I think it's one of Wiki's strengths that we have a niche for everybody. So no matter what kind of editing that you're doing, then it's always appreciated and it's always valued. I think the same goes for extended rights, that we need folks that are able and willing to take on these extended rights and do this other kind of work. Femco, so you're somewhat desperate for new admins, so please do get in contact. Yes, thank you for that. Quite a few admins focused on mentoring people towards RFA. Oh, I didn't know that. That's cool. And I think also, yeah, probably very much needed, because I think it can, as we said, it's maybe can seem like a bit of an overwhelming process, and I'm glad that that is working. All right, well, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. I've really enjoyed doing these Sandbox sessions. It's been a really lovely chance to have some community voices coming through, to speak on a few different things and a few different areas of Wiki, and let us get to learn some new things. I'm hoping that we will do another round of Sandbox sessions in the coming year. But in the meantime, thank you so much again to Harry. Lovely to hear you, and thank you so much. Really appreciate all your work, and really appreciate you coming forward to do a Sandbox session. Have a lovely rest of your weekend, everybody. And yeah, we shall see you soon. Take care. Bye.